Alrighty, welcome back everyone to our Groundskeeper chat series. I'm your host, Meg Kruger, and today I'm joined by a very exciting guest, someone I'm happy I can call a friend as well, Jess Lenihan. I definitely messed up your last name there. If I say it quick enough, though, people won't notice. So I'll just say it really. But Jess Lenihan, she is the farm manager with Green Valley Turf in Platteville or Littleton, Colorado. Wherever your Google search takes you, you'll find it there. And we are going to talk about her route to turf, you know, how it first came on her radar all the way to where she is today. It's a story I'm excited to dive into. I've heard little bits and pieces of it along the way over the last couple of years, but I want the whole enchilada today from start to finish. Okay. Putting you on the spot in that sense. But what we'll start off with is, who are you outside of the job? Like, what is your favorite thing to do when you're not having to work? What are the things that really fuel your fire so that you kind of have the ability to, you know, be so successful in your career?
Well, I have three dogs and they are a handful. So we tend to try to get them like off the property and, you know, go like to the river or go take them out hiking or somewhere that they can, you know, be active. And so that's kind of like our main, like, you know, get off the farm and like do something like more exciting than just like growing grass.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have a cat named Kevin, correct?
Kevin is the dog. He's the
okay. Kevin is the dog.
The cat is named Todd, and Todd is a lady.
Okay. I knew there was like some wonky names in there. I love it.
Human names for pets are like my thing. Like, I just think that's so funny. So
it is really funny. And we shared our enthusiasm over Christmas cards this past holiday season. You have like done extensive research to, you know, find the best. And when I eventually received your card in the mail, I was like, all of that research was worthwhile. It was the cutest thing in the world.
It's like my favorite part of the holiday season is doing Christmas cards. And so back when I lived in Arizona, just like years ago, and like my two roommates that I lived with, like we started doing Christmas cards. And so we had started sending those out. And then my roommate that I lived with in Idaho, we started sending them out, just like get all the cats and dogs and everything into the photo. And so that's just like my tradition now, is just like Christmas cards every year. And so it's like pretty exciting if you get on the Christmas card list, because I send out like a lot of cards.
I love it. No, and it's something that I agree. Like, I love my Christmas cards. I love sending it out. And then something I do is like a yearbook that I make for myself every year. And my husband every year will be like, you're spending like hundreds of dollars on these yearbooks. Like, we're the only ones that are going to see them. And I'm like, that's the point. Like, what don't you get about this? But I'll spend like hundreds of dollars in so many hours. Like, right. I just find the best company that will do it. I just meticulously sweat over the photos, like everything.
Well, otherwise, I feel like all that stuff just like sits on your phone and you like don't look at it otherwise. And so if you put it in the nice book, then, you know, it actually, you get some use out of it.
Exactly. Well, I mean, in so many ways, I'm envious of you because of, you know, the Christmas card of it all, but also where you get to live and breathe on a daily basis is just, it's unreal. Like, it's the backdrop of every dream that anyone ever had. So tell us a little bit about, you know, where you didn't grow up in Colorado. So, you know, tell us how you made your way to Colorado.
Okay. So when I was growing up, my dad was the director of guest services at the Coeur d'Alene Resort Golf Course, which for those that know the Coeur d'Alene Resort, it is the golf course up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho that has the world's only floating green. And so that's like its claim to
fame. Very cool.
So he was the director of guest services there. So he ran like the caddy program and like did like the outside services stuff. And so he was like, hey, I was like 15. He's like, you need a summer job and you're not working for me. So he's like, why don't you call up Kevin Hicks in the maintenance department and maybe, you know, he'll have something for you. So I started doing like bunkers and flowers. So they actually plant 11,000 geraniums every summer at the resort. And so, so I started bunkers and flowers for like the first couple of years I was there, because it was just like, you know, like that's like the easy way into the golf maintenance side. And I kind of like worked my way up from there. And I was actually at the resort for 7 summers.
Okay.
And kind of said to myself, you know, I've been doing this for a long time and I really enjoy it. So maybe I should go to school for it. And at the time I had done my associate's degree at North Idaho College, which is located in Coeur d'Alene. And so I had my associate's, in like, I think it was general studies is what my associate's is actually in. Like I hadn't picked anything in particular.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to go to school for turf. And I ended up doing Penn State's online, the 4-year program. And so I was working while getting my degree. And kind of in this transition, I went from the Coeur d'Alene Resort to Hayden Lake Country Club, which is a private club that's like 15 minutes north of Coeur d'Alene.
Okay.
So I still lived in Coeur d'Alene, but moved up there. So I was on the staff for a year, and then the superintendents changed, and the guy that was the assistant before was like not super great.
Mm-hmm.
And so my new super, he knew I was in school and working towards my degree. And so he moved me into an assistant position there.
Okay.
And so I became an assistant the second summer that I was there. And I finished my degree while I was an assistant. And then I was an assistant there for 10 years.
Okay.
And I left in the fall of 21.
Okay.
And I actually, when I was doing the Penn State program, I was in school at the same time that Evan was. So Evan Powell, my boss here at Green Valley. And so we went to school together. And so he had reached out to me and was just like, hey, we have this position available at Green Valley. It's a farm manager position. You'll be taking care of the bent grass. Eventually you'll be switching over to, we do bluegrass on plastic for pro sports. So like the Broncos, we've done the Royals field last couple of years, Cardinals, some Major League Soccer. And so it's like, you should really consider this. I'm like, yeah, no, like I love my job. Like I'm not moving to Colorado. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And, so I kind of like, stopped to think about it. And it was like a job that I really couldn't turn down. It was really an opportunity to learn and move to a place like, I'm 40 minutes north of Denver.
Incredible.
Like so much stuff to do here. And so it was just like, I can do that. And so ended up quitting at Hayden, which was not something I really expected, because I really liked working there. And like I had no plans on like really ever leaving there, because I got a really good like setup with my our other management and like our staff and everything. And so that was like a really big change for me. But came down here, and this is my 3rd year here at Green Valley, and I've really been enjoying it so far.
So cool. And where did Arizona come into play there?
I decided in like 2010. So I guess I was like 21 or 22. I wanted to be a snowbird. And so it was like during the off season from the golf. And so I went down to Arizona for 2 winters, and then I was in Palm Springs for a winter, and I didn't work in golf or anything. I was actually like waiting tables. And it was just during the off season from golf. And then I would go back up to Coeur d'Alene in the summertime and work at the golf course.
So cool. And, my knowledge before really joining the women in turf team of like the golf side of things was non-existent. But one thing that is like so evident when you come into when you're working with a maintenance team on the golf industry is that the assistant is really doing a lot of that day-to-day management, or pulling a lot, and really also working very closely with a lot of the seasonals, a lot of any volunteers, a lot of those crew members. So I can imagine that doing that job for 10 years, what did that work-life balance look like? Was there work-life balance, or is that why it was hard to leave, because you did have such a good system going on?
Yeah. See, and that's the thing, like you hear like a lot of like nightmare stories of people that, work at a course where like their superintendent's never there, and they're there for 16 hours a day, and they're absolutely miserable. Well, like we didn't have that.
Okay.
Like if we were there past like 3 p.m., like it was a bad day. And so like we just had like a really good setup. And I was also like in the Northwest, where like, frankly, it's like one of the easiest places in the country to grow grass. Like our disease pressure is pretty low. Like we don't have like outrageous temperatures. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, it was one of the better places in my opinion, like to take care of it. And like, I don't know, Jeremiah, my superintendent, had a really like good mindset of it. It's like, it's just grass. Like, some days there's projects that need to get done, and some days you're there late, and other days, you give it the water it needs, and we'll see you tomorrow. Like it is what it is. And so that was like one reason that it was just like, I really never planned on leaving. It's just like, I did have a really good setup where it was like, you were working for someone that like wanted to spend time with his own family. And so he didn't want to have us, be there and be miserable. And so I think it's just like finding the right place to work where, you've got someone that really appreciates that. Cause like a lot of people don't.
For sure. And that really resonates with me, and hopefully with other people that have found that place, is that it really is so much about that work-life balance comes from having that trusting relationship with a boss, being empowered in your own position, you know, as simple as just not working for like a micromanager sometimes is how you achieve that. So I love that, you had that experience. You were able to leave it on a happy note. It's always hard when you hear people leaving the industry when it was like it just got too much and they had to leave for something that was so drastically different than that. But it's refreshing that you can still be like an advocate for the industry in that sense.
Right.
So paint us a picture. I mean, because in so many ways, farm manager at, a Green Valley Turf, I'm sure not a lot of people can imagine like what that day to day looks like. So help us paint a picture of what that means, especially, somebody who's on the golf side or sports turf side. How do you translate what you knew on that side of the industry to what you're doing today?
Well, and everything, it's essentially identical. It's just on a significantly larger scale. And so like all the stuff that we do is like everything's GPS, which is just like so great. So we're going out like top dressing or whatever. And everything's GPS controlled. I'm just like making my turns and just like hitting a lot of buttons in order to get everything like set up again.
Yeah.
And so like this year we did not plant any new bent grass. And so we're working off last year's supply. And so this year I've just been kind of like honestly keeping up on my mowing. I do like fertilizer apps like every 10 to 14 days. I verticut when necessary, do, fungicide apps as needed. We've been getting some more bluegrass on plastic down. We're working with some soccer stuff for the next couple of years for
Very cool.
The big tournaments that are coming down the line. And so, the nicest part is like, I don't really have like a specific schedule, like stuff gets done when it needs to get done. And so I just kind of like keep an eye on irrigation. Sometimes, sand gets jammed in heads. And so we got to like swap that out. But my title like of farm manager, I would say is I'm basically like an assistant, but on a sod farm instead of on a golf course.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. People always think I'm in sales. They're like, oh, you like swap to sales. I'm like, no. Like I actually like grow the grass here. Like I
love that.
But no, it's just kind of like you can just kind of keep an eye on the product and make changes as needed. But that was like the biggest like shift in mindset, like coming to the sod farm from the golf course. Cause like on the golf course, you're like always maintaining a perfect product and like you want it to be, play ready all the time. Well, here it like really took a lot. Like my first season was kind of a struggle to get used to. Like it's not perfect. Like it's like, crap all season. And then you get it perfect. And then it's out the door because it's sold.
Yeah.
And so like, it was definitely a shift of like, okay, it's allowed to look like this for the entire season.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, you got a bad cut on it, but like, does it matter because it's not going out the door today? Like, no, it really doesn't. And so there's just like, it's kind of like you got to like look at things like a little bit backwards. So.
Definitely. And what does that like farm to field process look like? Is that like all hands on deck to, get those final touches on the product before it goes out the door? Or what is that really? I can't even conceptualize. Like, is that like somebody bringing in like a semi truck to like just put in rolls of grass, or like what is that final transition from farm to field look like?
So it really depends on the field and like what kind of sod we're sending out. So like the like bread and butter, so to speak, of our company is pallets of bluegrass sod that just go to like homeowners and like landscaping companies.
Okay.
So the like average turnaround on like a field of bluegrass is like a year to 18 months, but it really depends on like the weather. That can like really change what happens in that time frame. And so like we'll like fully farm the field, like, till everything all up, go through and like level everything out, seed into that. And then, you keep an eye on weeds and, like let it all grow up from there. But I guess, well, if you take like a football field, for example, so we do the Broncos sod,
Very cool.
4 times a year. And that's grown on plastic. And so when we harvest that, it's all in big rolls.
Okay.
And they're 22 trucks that have 18 to 20 big rolls on each truck, depending on weight. Each roll weighs about 2,000 pounds. And so it's like a lot of juggling truck drivers. And like, I don't know if you ever dealt with truck drivers before, but they're like notoriously unreliable. And so poor Evan has to deal with like phone calls with like a million truck drivers, like trying to get all of them coordinated. And that's just like going to Denver. I mean, that's an hour south of us.
Wow.
And so it's like when they're going to Kansas City or St. Louis or something, like it's even bigger of a nightmare. But the guys will like do most of our harvest at night. And so they'll start at like 11, 12 o'clock at night because that's when it's cool. I mean, this week we're supposed to be over 100 degrees for the next like 3 days.
Yikes.
They do all the harvesting at night just because it's a little bit better for the grass, and then have everything like picked up first thing in the morning, and it'll be on refrigerated reefers.
So cool. Yeah. And I do have a little bit of experience with truck drivers. I worked at a travel plaza like all through high school. I worked at like the Starbucks at the travel plaza, and not to, slander truck drivers in any way, but definitely a unique group.
It's a unique subset of people, that's for sure. You just really don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah. And so to like hand off a product like so many hours were invested in, and like it's such a finicky, living, breathing organism, I can imagine is a bit stressful, even if it's only an hour drive until it lands in the right hands.
For sure. Well, and even like, cause shoot, St. Louis was like 13 hours. And so legally they're only supposed to do like a 12-hour run. Well, some of the guys, when we did our last field over there, they just like went rogue and they just went to 13 hours instead of 12. And so then they showed up, 12 hours earlier at the field than they were supposed to be there. And it's just like, well, we're ready to be unloaded. It's just like, well, sorry, but we're not going to be ready for sod until tomorrow. So we'll see you then. Like, you can sit here in the parking lot.
Oh, geez. Yeah. No, thanks. Well, something that really sticks out to me about your story was your willingness to and not to take it lightly, but your willingness to move, and retransplant and, just start over. What advice, now that you're 3 years into it, what advice or insight or words of wisdom could you give someone else who's like at that point and they're just like, do I take the plunge? Do I do it? Like, what were the anxieties that were running through your mind? Because I'm sure, it's definitely a scary decision to make.
Oh, 100%. And like, whatever that saying is, this is like, nothing good like comes from staying like in your comfort zone or whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like that was kind of like the motivation that I needed to just kind of like branch out. Cause like I was not unhappy at Hayden, and like I really had no reason to leave. Yeah. And like I do miss my friends there all the time, but I'm learning a lot at the Sod Farm. And I would just say like, learn the different aspects of the business. And because we've got actually an intern right now from Purdue who he ultimately wants to end up in golf. He did like 1 year of his internship was at Hazeltine. Last summer, he did an internship with the golf course construction company down in Texas.
Okay.
This year he's doing a sod farm, and then he graduates after this next year. And so he'll ultimately wants to be like a superintendent. And I'm just like, I'm like, I wish I would have done it like your way when I was in college, because you really are like, you're learning like all sides of this now while you're like, 20 years old, instead of waiting until you're, 35 and then being like, oh, hey, I want to learn that too. And so just like learn all that you can. Cause like the sod farm stuff is like, it's really interesting, and everything's like I said on a huge scale. And I don't know, all this grass on plastic stuff that we're doing for soccer is just like, I don't know, it's its own beast of trying to learn how to grow all that. And so anything that I can learn in the next like few years that I'm here is just like awesome. And then can take that, moving forward, and, the possibilities are endless. So
Definitely. Well, and that really encapsulates like the industry is that I don't think you're ever really pigeonholing yourself if you take a new opportunity.
right.
Because some aspect of it or some facet of it is going to be applicable in some form of this industry. So that's just the nature and forgiving like nature of the industry for sure. So, I
100%.
mean, do you see yourself, going somewhere else in a few years or switching gears completely again or what, or you're just like taking it day by day for now?
Like really, I'm taking it day by day. Like I'm fortunate enough to be able to be like involved on the golf side. Like this week, TPC Colorado is hosting a Corn Ferry Tour event, and so in the mornings, like I've been going over there and like helping
Oh,
to do
very
setup
cool.
every day. And like I'm, involved with the women in turf stuff, and so like I try to volunteer for a few tournaments, across the country every year, and so like I still get to, do the golf thing. But fortunate enough to have the job that I do that allows that to happen. And so like, we'll see. I'm just kind of like winging it. And like I said, learning what I can where I'm at, and we'll see. I mean, the possibilities are endless. That's what I do love about this industry is that you can kind of go anywhere.
Definitely. And a network plays a huge role in that. So let's talk a little bit about the women in turf team and, how we came to know each other and how a lot of us got connected on that side of the industry. Like how important, and I feel silly even asking it, like how important is the network in this industry, but because it's so vitally important. But like in your own words, like how has it served you in your career?
Networking is like that. I mean, it's key. Like this,
Yeah.
this industry like it's big, but it's small. Like it's so much of who you know. And like, I don't know, every time we like have interns or whatever else, I just try to explain to them, like, get yourself out there. Like
Yeah.
anytime you're, at the SFMA conference, or if you go to the golf show, like meet who you can, like allow those introductions to happen, like go volunteer for events, because that's how you meet the people that you just never knew that would come in down the line.
Yeah.
So I mean, shoot, when I was mowing greens at Shinnecock Hills in 2018, and the guy who was flagging my lines is his name is Paul Vermeulen, and he's the director of agronomy for the entire PGA Tour. And
Wow.
so now I'm like on a first name basis with Paul, and it's just like I know that if I ever needed anything, I could call him up, and he would be more than happy to help me out. And it's just like I love being able to meet people like that, and just those situations where it's just like, you can't replace those. Like those things are like incredible in this industry. And so it's just like get yourself out there as much as sometimes
Definitely.
you don't want to make friends, it's important.
Exactly. Well, and I think the volunteer aspect of it is such great grounds to meet people on because it kind of levels the playing field in a sense. Like if you sometimes when you're at a conference or things that are more like the business side of it, it's people dressed up. There's a certain like culture or language that's being used when it's more of the professional side. But when you go to volunteer, it's like you're seeing everyone at 4 a.m. Like it kind of just levels the playing field. And you get to like bond and meet them on a different level. And create that camaraderie and network on a much different scale, I think.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. Yeah. You get to like see what people really are made of, and, and see you rolling out of bed at 4 a.m. thinking that we're all crazy for like being okay with getting up that early in the morning.
Truly. It was amazing though. This year was like the third year I've gone with the women in turf team. And like that first year I made the video where I was just like, check on your friends if they're, if they're making this decision willingly, like something is wrong with them. And like this year I was in your car, the mornings that I shuttled over and like we were playing music. Like I was like, this is just natural now.
This is
Like
fine. I can do this now.
I'm one of the crazy ones. Like someone needs to check on me officially. Like
It's only taken 3 years, but now I'm super okay with it.
yep, I'm now officially adapted for sure. And like after the shift, ends around 9 a.m., like not going back to nap, but like, just savoring every second that like we had, and we went and got crepes one morning, and did all the fun things. So, I mean, how has the women in turf team impacted not only your career, but I know that you spend a lot of time with those ladies like in your personal life. Like how has that those relationships, that network really impacted the overall picture?
I've been thankful for it just because I've met, people like Nina, who is in Omaha, and Omaha's only 8 hours from me here, and so
Mm-hmm.
like we like hang out pretty regularly now. And Nina's also like on the sports side. Well, I was exclusively golf previously before the Sod Farm, and so being able to meet more people like on that sports side has been really helpful for me. But I was definitely kind of a hater of the women in turf stuff initially. Um, I have always like stood by the attitude of like, why are we making it a big deal of like women in the turfgrass industry? Because we're women that happen to work in a male dominated field, but it's like, I don't know, drawing more attention to it is like, it makes the men that are haters on it, like,
It
it gives them
fuels
like,
their fire.
it fuels their fire. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. And so I just want to be able to do my job. It was just like always like my attitude. But then I like, look at like the good friends that I've like made from that group. And it's just like, okay, well, maybe like I don't hate it that much.
Yes, yes. I was so relate to that statement. I was just telling this story to Drew Miller, like the Tiger Turf Grass podcast. I was telling him how like Sun had invited me to come to like that women's luncheon in Savannah. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm a woman. Like, gotta check this box and go to this
Right.
luncheon. And I remember like sitting there and it's still being like, okay, like we're all girls, like, just completely not. I was like, I'm not gonna like drink the Kool-Aid. Like, this is
Right.
not for me. But then I will say, like, when I joined you guys in Pine Needles, it was not only on a professional level, but being able to relate to that many people just in a personal level as well. It's like I felt like I always describe it as like summer camp. Like
Yes.
we've somehow, and I mean, it makes sense. We've all chosen a job in this industry, so we have similar sense of humor, similar, passions, similar just basic traits, that it
Right.
only makes sense that like you put us all together and we have a nice time.
Sure, for sure. Well, and that's like people are always like, oh, like how are you planning? Like, how do you want to get like more women in the industry? I'm like, all you can do is make it known that this is a career path that any woman can take, but it also like it's not for everyone. Like you have, like you
Yep.
said, you have to have the right sense of humor. You have to have thick skin. Like you have to be
Yep.
able to handle like working in this environment because it's not easy and it really is truly not for everyone. And so it's just like, all you can do is just spread the word and like hope that you can pick up a few people along the way. And I think that it's been really cool to, find that there is a good group out there and that we do get a chance to, hang out every once in a while.
Yeah, it's magic. And also, for the people that are already in it, just making sure they know they have like that support system, just people that they can call on if they are having like a professional struggle or a personal struggle,
Right.
is definitely a good thing. But yeah, I can definitely speak to the fact that it's not for everyone. I know if I was like didn't have the security of like my phone and being able to like hide behind the lens and do that aspect of the job, I could never
Right.
do what you guys do. Like, oh my gosh. Like, I'm not a perfectionist in any like way. And when I see you guys, like, especially when we went to the Little League, it was just one field that they were maintaining. And like every couple innings, they would go out there and it would be like 15 of them. And they were taking like their small little job, very seriously and like being very meticulous about it. Which, like, if that was me, I'd be like, yeah, there's 14 other people out there. Like, I'm good. like, you guys are definitely of a different elk. Like, I get to capture a lot of the magic and the skill sets that you guys bring to the table, but I can say if I didn't know how to use my phone, I would definitely not have the privilege to hang out with you
And
guys.
then we all have our strong suit, and you are in the perfect spot, so it's all good.
Yeah, I have a way of making people feel insanely uncomfortable, but they eventually open up and will give me a soundbite that I can use.
Right, right, right.
Well, no, I love that. And just looking at what you've done along the way, like what are some of those core pillars that stand out to you about your career or just your route to where you are today, starting all the way, kind of being forced into taking a job on a golf course to where you're now in a very unique position that I'm sure many people are like, wow, that's really cool.
I'm just like thankful for the opportunity to even like said, no, this was even a job. Cause that was that was a long time ago, like before, like before Twitter existed and like you could social media and like that you could see that, golf course maintenance is a thing that people do. And so like, I'm just thankful that I got into it when I did and like have had the opportunities that I have had because, not everyone gets those. I went through a period in 2014, 15 ish, where I was like pretty active on like social media and like the stuff that I was like posting and like all like stuff with work and whatever else. And so I was able to like grow like a decent following on there. And it's been really cool just to like see what everyone has been up to. Like there's people that, I've like followed online for years and years and then like meet them at the golf show. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, how are your kids? Like, I know we've never met in person, but like, how's your family doing? Like, how's the course? And so I'm just thankful for all the opportunities that I've had, frankly, because I know that I've had like a bit of a unique path, but I've also like worked really hard to get to the spot that I am. So
Definitely. Yeah. To showcase that as well, that it didn't all just,
right.
a lot of hard work in the process of that. And, you spoke a little bit about my bread and butter, like the things that I love, which is the social media side of it all. What is like the good, the bad, and the ugly with that? Like, what are the things that it has brought you? What are the things that you're like, maybe we could do without? Like, how important is it to kind of make a name for yourself in the industry on social media?
I think it's like changed a lot from the time that it was like when I started doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I will like meet people and they'll be like, why or how do you have so many followers on Twitter? I'm like, okay, well, listen, like I started doing that like years ago, like before like the weirdo, like the algorithms changed. And it was just like, it was like a lot different. Like the year that I volunteered at the Players Championship, they thought I was the first woman that had ever volunteered. And that was like in 2016, maybe. And so it's just like, it was just like a different time. And like things are different now. And so like algorithms have changed and like, I don't really post anymore because it annoys me so bad. Like now it's all influencers and like, I don't do that stuff.
Yep. Yeah.
But it's important to like get your name out there. I mean, there are so many people that like really like on the show floor, the golf show, stop me and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so-and-so. I follow you on Twitter. I'm like, oh, okay. Hi. Like, it's really nice to meet you. And so it's the networking thing. It's people that you wouldn't have met otherwise. And like, frankly, like whatever I post when we have like grass that I need to sell, like, hey, if anyone needs this type of grass, this is where to find it. And it's just like, whatever, if someone sees that, then they can share it with someone else. And then, it may reach an audience that you wouldn't have otherwise. That was how we had our grinders here at the shop. We ended up buying them in Canada of all places.
Very cool. Yeah. And just, it's another, access point to a network that, if you don't have the ability to do shows or volunteer or what have you, you can kind of build your network online as well.
Right.
So,
right.
Well, like I said, I was going to try and make this as painless as possible for you. So I think I've grilled you long enough. Is there any last words that you want to leave us with? Any little golden nuggets that you want to end on?
I don't think so.
That's like, I could take that little face that you just made and like, Jess, will you do the groundskeeper chat with me and like zoom in on?
This is how excited I am that you
Well, I do appreciate you doing this with me. And, as I said, so many elements of what you're doing today is like the dream. But I don't want to overstate that without, highlighting all the hard work that went into it and like hard decisions that, had to be made that probably weren't that instant gratification of like, oh, this was right. Putting in the time to, find a place that you could be thriving in.
Sure. Yep. Like,
So,
when you're not sure of a decision initially, but then it's just like, all right, well, this is worth it. I'm learning, like this is good. Like we can go for it from here. As long as you've got your inputs going in, then it's like the possibilities are endless on the other end. So
definitely. Well, thank you so much again. I appreciate it.
of course, anything for you, Meg.